For years after marrying Pei Muchen, I finally found a way to return home. The system said that as long as Pei Muchen married someone else, I could leave this world. So, I stopped being jealous and graciously tried to match him with his beloved. I even let Pei Muchen demote me from wife to concubine. At first, Pei Muchen praised me for being understanding. But as he watched me personally prepare his wedding, he frowned and asked, "Lin Wanshi, how can you still be so happy when I'm about to marry someone else?" I didn't answer, only retrieved the hair comb I had gifted him years ago. Amidst the loud gongs and drums, on the night of the wedding, Pei Muchen seemed to sense something. He suddenly ran barefoot to find me. By that time, I had already set foot on the road home. Ding! webnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. When Pei Muchen pushed the door open, Chioyue was feeding me medicine. Seeing him return, Chioyue quickly set down the medicine bowl and reminded him, "Marquis, the lady's old injury has flared up again. This injury was left from 4 years ago when I shielded Pei Muchen from an arrow." But Pei Muchen didn't pay attention to her. Instead, he grabbed my wrist and urgently said, "Wanshi, there's something I need your help with. Yuhan is gravely injured and near death. Your heart's blood is pure and full of energy. Let me take some to feed Yuhan, will you?" I only felt it was absurd and shook my head, asking him, "If she's sick, see a doctor." "Why take my blood?" Pei Muchen's face immediately darkened. He seized my wrist and said coldly, "Back then, when I was about to die on the battlefield, barely clinging to life, you cut your wrist and fed me your heart's blood, which was how I survived. Your heart's blood has the power to bring the dead back to life. Just a little blood could save a life, yet you refuse. Lin Wanshi, when did your heart become so cruel?" After saying this, he forcefully held me down, pulled out a dagger from his bosom, and deftly cut my wrist. Watching the blood fall, his expression finally softened a bit. "Wanshi, I know it hurts, but Yuhan is my lifesaver. I can't watch her die. Please bear it for a while." The pain in my chest was severe, the arrow wound I had taken for him was faintly aching again, spreading through my entire body. Pei Muchen, however, was completely oblivious. He only instructed me to rest well, then left hurriedly, joyfully holding the bowl full of my blood. Walking so urgently, he didn't even notice that my wrist was still bleeding. The blood soaked through the bedding, even bringing tears to Chioyue's eyes. Suddenly, I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like if we were in modern times, if my mom and dad were with me. Mom would definitely hold me protectively, and Dad would beat Pei Muchen up until he ran away. They wouldn't bear to see me suffer this grievance. I looked down at my hand, suddenly overwhelmed with sobs. Not because I was bullied, but because I just desperately wanted to leave ancient times and go home. At that moment, an electronic voice I'd not heard in 5 years suddenly sounded in my mind. "Host, sorry, the upgrade took some time. The task is completed. Do you want to leave this world and go home?" 9 years ago, I had just graduated from high school when I was inexplicably bound by a system. It transported me to ancient times and told me that if I wanted to go home, I had to complete a mission. My task was to redeem Pei Muchen and help him become a marquis. When I first appeared, Pei Muchen was still in dire straits. He was an illegitimate child of the marquis's household. After his mother's death, his father wanted to bring him home. But the old lady despised his mother for being a courtesan, refused to acknowledge him as her grandson, and drove him out of the house. At that time, Pei Muchen was still just a teenager, fainted from hunger by the roadside, and it was I who picked him up. I provided him with a shelter from the elements, fed and clothed him, and painstakingly raised this boy who was 3 years younger than me. Pei Muchen wanted to study martial arts, but there was not enough money at home. So I got up early and went around the streets and alleys selling sweet water to save up his tuition. That night, I handed the coins to Pei Muchen. Seeing my hands full of wrinkles, his eyes suddenly turned red. He straightened his back and solemnly vowed before me, "Sister, I will protect you forever in this life." Pei Muchen was a martial arts genius, and he could wield a red-tasseled spear with great skill. Later, he went to join the army in the northern desert, and I followed him there. While he earned military merits on the battlefield, I was in the city selling sweet water. On the day Pei Muchen got separated from the main force, everyone gave up on him. It was I who traversed the sand dunes on foot and found him under the poplar tree. He was dehydrated, and I had no water pouch on me. I could only feed him with my blood. Then I carried him and walked arduously through the vast desert. After waking up, Pei Muchen never called me sister again, stubbornly addressing me as Wanshi. The way he looked at me grew increasingly ambiguous. After his great victory and being granted a title, he held my hand and confessed his deep feelings. Even though my heartstrings were indeed stirred, I shook my head and refused. Muchen, I can't always be by your side. I come from a very distant place, and one day I must go back. I saved Pei Muchen 3 times, accompanied him upward, and helped him reclaim the Marquis house. On the day Pei Muchen became Marquis Pei, my task was finally accomplished, and I wanted to go home to find my parents right away. But the system suddenly disappeared, and no matter how I summoned it, I couldn't get in touch. I took a year to accept the fact that I was left in ancient times. Pei Muchen brought me to the Marquis house. His affection was bold and passionate, becoming the only vivid color in my gray life. Thus, when Pei Muchen proposed to me, I agreed. At that time, he presented his true heart to me, his eyes full of tenderness and affection. But after Lu Yuhan appeared, his true heart instantly changed. Lu Yuhan was a relative of the old lady and had once pleaded for Pei Muchen. When he was expelled from the Marquis house, even giving him a white steamed bun. She was his pure dream girl. He only remembered Lu Yuhan's single meal of kindness but forgot the countless meals I had made for him. Host, do you want to leave this world and return home? Yes. I almost answered without thinking, blurting out, I want to go home right now. But it has been detected here that you and Pei Muchen are already married, creating a bond that cannot be broken. I hesitated. What about a divorce? Can I go back if we get divorced? No. Only if Pei Muchen marries someone else can you leave. The system pondered for a moment before asking me. But host, I have witnessed the years of emotions between you and Pei Muchen. How can you possibly bear for him to marry another? I looked at the scars on my wrist, lowered my eyes, and curled my lips into a smile. How could I possibly be reluctant? I truly am very willing. The next day, the old lady suddenly summoned me to her room to talk. When I arrived, Lu Yuhan was nestled in the old lady's arms, and Pei Muchen was handing her the pastries I had made. Upon seeing me, Pei Muchen withdrew his hand and pursed his lips. Wanshi, there's something I need to discuss with you. Yuhan has a heart condition. Although she narrowly escaped death this time, the doctor says she doesn't have much time left. His eyes were full of pain. Yuhan's only wish is to marry me. Can you help me fulfill her wish? As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Yuhan began coughing violently. Wanshi, although I have always admired the Marquis, I never intended to come between you two. It's just that I'm about to die. Could you lend me the Marquis for a few days? After I'm gone, you can still have him back. Her tears fell like rain, making her look even more pitiable. Wanshi, I beg you to fulfill the wish of a dying person. As she spoke, her knees seemed to give way as if she was about to kneel before me. The old lady and Pei Muchen stopped her from either side. The old lady frowned at me. Lin Wanshi, your family background isn't good, and you're not young anymore. If Muchen weren't considering old times, you would only be fit to be a concubine. You've held the title of the Marquis's wife for 2 years. It's time to return it to Lu Yuhan. Muchen will write you a letter of divorce, and then let you be a concubine in the Marquis's household. Do you object? Pei Muchen seemed somewhat moved, but Lu Yuhan gently pulled on his sleeve, and he eventually said to me, my grandmother's wishes align with my own. Wanshi, I know you've always liked to fight for affection, but in matters of life and death, can you? Before he could finish speaking, I agreed cheerfully, okay. Pei Muchen was stunned. What did you say? I even smiled at him. I have no objections. I had originally been pondering how to make him marry someone else. Now I needn't say a word, and things could work out. I was too delighted to object. Pei Muchen's expression was complex, and after a moment, he nodded. Your magnanimity is a good thing. The old lady said since I had been married and had experience. I should help organize the wedding for Pei Muchen and Lu Yuhan. I agreed gladly. In the following days, Pei Muchen finally found time to see me, still telling me that after Lu Yuhan's death, I would still be his wife. I merely smiled, urging him to go keep Lu Yuhan company. Pei Muchen was slightly taken aback. Why are you still pushing me away? After taking a few steps, he suddenly turned back and said, Wanshi, it's been some days since you last prepared peach syrup for me. Pei Muchen has a bad throat, and in the past, I made peach syrup daily to soothe it. But I've been too busy worrying about your wedding recently. Let's talk about it later. The wedding date was set for the 6th of the next month. I was more dedicated to this wedding than my own, handling everything personally. The people in the manor said I was crazy to willingly demote myself to a concubine. Some even said that Pei Muchen had grown tired of me, and that to stay in the Marquis's manor, I had no other choice. Qiuyue stomped her feet angrily. A bunch of snobbish fools. Lady, Concubine Lin, how can you let them talk about you like that? Thinking about going home filled me with unstoppable joy. I waved her over. Come with me. I unlocked the drawer and opened it. Inside were all the valuable things I had collected over the years. I handed the key to Qiuyue. If I'm not around anymore, all these things will be yours. Once she retrieves her indenture and has some money, Qiuyue will be set for life without any worries. However, Qiuyue misunderstood my words and asked me in horror. Concubine Lin, are you planning to take your own life? It's not about taking my own life, just returning to a very distant place. As soon as I finished speaking, there was a sudden sound of something falling outside the door. The shadow of Pei Muchen was cast on the door by the wind lamp. I didn't know how long he had been standing there or how much he had heard. He pushed the door open, bringing in the chill from outside, grabbed my wrist, and asked me solemnly, Lin Wanshi, what were you just saying? What do you mean by returning to a very distant place? Where are you planning to go? Seeing his anxious expression, I smiled gently and subtly withdrew my hand from his grasp. I was just teasing Qiuyue. Did you really take it seriously, Marquis? Pei Muchen looked at me intently, as if trying to determine whether I was telling the truth. After a while, he suddenly lifted my chin and chuckled lightly. Indeed, Wanshi is now my concubine. How could Concubine leave so easily? Now that Wanshi can't even leave this Marquis residence, how could she go far? He gently caressed my cheek with his thumb, his voice softening a bit. Are you upset with me? It's my fault. I've neglected you recently. I'll stay with you tonight. But just as he finished speaking, Lu Yuhan's maid hurriedly arrived. Marquis, my lady is feeling very uneasy. Please come quickly to see her. Hearing this, Pei Muchen immediately released me. Wanshi, I'll be right back. I promise to return tonight. Go listen to Miss Lu's uneasiness. It's fine if you don't come back. Pei Muchen's steps faltered, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he remained silent. That night, I extinguished the candle early and went to bed. Qiuyue became anxious again. Concubine Lin, why don't you wait for the Marquis? He might come back later. I pulled up the quilt and lay on my side to sleep. He won't come back. In the past, when he went to see Lu Yuhan, he also said he would be right back. I believed him and waited from dusk till dawn, but the bed beside me remained cold. That night, I had a beautiful dream where my parents held me tightly. Half awake, I heard Qiuyue angrily cursing. That damn Marquis, lying to my concubine Lin again. I smiled slightly, turned over, and continued to sleep. I'm going home soon, so who cares about him? I was focused on ensuring that Pei Muchen and Lu Yuhan's wedding went smoothly. But unexpectedly, something went wrong within a couple of days. Pei Muchen heard that there was a plant called soul-returning herb growing on the cliffs outside the capital, which could prolong life if consumed. In order to let Lu Yuhan live a few more days, he sent people to search for this herb. However, the people he sent out couldn't find it anywhere. Annoyed by their incompetence, Pei Muchen decided to go to the cliffs himself. As a result, he didn't find the herb and ended up falling off the cliff, injuring himself quite badly. Fortunately, the injuries were just superficial and wouldn't delay the wedding, which allowed me to breathe a sigh of relief. The old lady said he was injured and needed someone to take care of him. She mentioned that Lu Yuhan, being a delicate lady from a noble family, couldn't handle such tasks, so she left Pei Muchen to me. Chihuahua was changing his bandages while I was arranging freshly picked red plums. Pei Muchen frowned and, somewhat dissatisfied, reminded me. Wanshi, every time I got hurt before, you would personally help me with the medicine. Even if I had just a small bump or bruise, you would be very worried. Pei Muchen asked me in confusion. But today, why do you seem so indifferent and even have the mind to arrange flowers? Huh? I lifted my head from the plum blossoms. What did you just say? Pei Muchen was momentarily speechless, then angrily said. I got hurt. Why don't you care at all? I rolled up my sleeve, pointing at a new scar on my wrist from a few days ago, quietly watching him. Pei Muchen avoided my gaze, slowly lowered his head. I didn't mean it like that, it's just that Lu Yuhan's situation was urgent. His voice grew softer, as if he didn't know how to explain. That night, we lay in bed fully clothed, Pei Muchen lying beside me. He carried the scent of hibiscus, which Lu Yuhan often used. As the night grew colder, with the windows closed, the scent became even stronger. Suddenly, Pei Muchen wrapped his arm around my waist, resting his head on my shoulder, his voice hoarse, Wanshi. As he spoke, he made a move to untie my belt, whispering in my ear, let's have a child. The scent filled my nostrils, making me almost gag. I tried to hold it in, but eventually couldn't, covering my chest as I dry heaved. Pei Muchen quickly tried to soothe my back. But as soon as his hand touched my back, I retched even more violently. He awkwardly withdrew his hand, looking at me in shock. Wanshi, are you rejecting my touch? I pushed open the window, gasping for air. The night breeze drove away the hibiscus scent, and the moonlight in the courtyard was rising, flooding the garden with its luminous waves. I finally calmed down, gently patting my chest. I'm not feeling well, I'm afraid I can't serve the Marquis tonight. Perhaps the Marquis should go find Miss Lu. The drifting clouds half covered the bright moon, and half of Pei Muchen's face was hidden in the shadows. He paused in his thin clothing, his eyes filled with confusion. Wanshi, do you love me so much that you don't want me to feel uncomfortable? Or have you stopped loving me and are willing to push me to another woman? I handed him his outer garment. The Marquis jests. What other woman? Miss Lu is your rightful wife. Pei Muchen didn't take the garment, lowering his eyes to look at me, speaking with difficulty. Don't call me Marquis, you used to call me Muchen. Saying this, he cupped my face, leaning down as if he wanted to kiss me. But before he got close, I clutched my chest and started dry heaving again. Pei Muchen stared at me blankly, then as if realizing something, the disappointment in his eyes vanished. He asked me excitedly, Wanshi, are you pregnant? It's impossible for me to be pregnant, my monthly cycle just started a few days ago. But Pei Muchen insisted that my nausea was due to pregnancy. He sent for a doctor overnight. After checking my pulse, the doctor shook his head. Concubine Lin is just sensitive to strong scents, she is not pregnant. His hopes dashed, Pei Muchen waved the doctor away in disappointment. That night, Pei Muchen refused to leave and insisted on squeezing onto the same bed with me. He held me through the quilt, his voice muffled. Wanshi, the way you looked at me just now, it's like you were looking at a stranger, it made my heart ache. I know Yuhan's situation has wronged you. But her mother died early, and her father doesn't care for her, just like what I went through. Seeing her is like seeing my past self. So, can we help her? She's frail and doesn't have much time left. Let's make her last days happy, and it will be a blessing for us too, okay? He was so noisy, chattering on for ages, constantly asking me if it was okay. Annoyed by his persistence, I casually replied, okay. Only then did Pei Muchen finally stop talking. In the following days, Pei Muchen couldn't find me. He asked the servants, where is Concubine Lin? She is reviewing the wedding procedures. She is deciding on the banquet menu. She is counting the guests. After a few days, Pei Muchen finally saw me. I presented several pieces of fabric to him, asking which pattern he wanted for his wedding attire. Pei Muchen didn't look at the patterns. Instead, he frowned and asked me, it's clearly my wedding, why are you more concerned than I am? Seeing my smiling face, his frown deepened. Wanshi, I'm about to marry someone else. How can you smile so happily? Thinking about how the day to return home was getting closer, I felt elated and didn't argue with him. We are fulfilling Miss Lu's wish. The Marquis says this is called accumulating blessings, so of course, I'm happy. Pei Muchin pressed his lips together, unable to find words to refute for a moment. After a while, he took an ivory hairpin from his pocket and held it out in front of me. Do you like it? The ivory hairpin was carved with bamboo branches, warm and exquisite. I nodded and praised, it's very beautiful. I remember you mentioned after returning from a banquet that you admired the ivory hairpin Princess Qin wore and liked it very much. Recently, I happened to acquire a new ivory hairpin. Normally, such a precious hairpin should be given to my legitimate wife. Pei Muchin pressed his lips together again, looking down at me. But if you ask me for it, I might make an exception and give it to you. He seemed to really want me to plead with him, but I just shook my head. No need, Marquis, keep it for Miss Lu. Pei Muchin furrowed his brows, his frown growing deeper. Lin Wanshi, don't blame me for not reminding you, this hairpin is worth a fortune. But I can't take it back to the modern world, so what's the use of it? Seeing that I had no intention of asking for it, Pei Muchin withdrew the ivory hairpin and left with a flick of his sleeve. After taking a few steps, I called out to him from behind, Marquis. Pei Muchin immediately stopped, slowly turned back to look at me. A faint smile he couldn't hide appearing on his lips, with a hint of expectation in his eyes. I raised the few pieces of fabric in my hand. Marquis, you haven't answered yet, which pattern should be used for the wedding attire this time? So I can have someone prepare it. His face fell instantly, and he pointed at one randomly before leaving in a huff. That evening, the news of Pei Muchin giving the ivory hairpin to Lu Yuhan spread throughout the entire residence. From that day on, he never stepped into my courtyard again. Everyone said I had completely fallen out of favor, but I was quite content with my freedom. Taking advantage of the free time, I needed to settle everything here before going home. I retrieved Chuyua's contract, sold off the farms and shops I had invested in before, and donated all the money to the residential care home on the outskirts of the capital. After doing all this, I leaned on the windowsill, counting the days on my fingers until Pei Muchin's wedding. A gentle breeze stirred the pool of silver moonlight, like spring water rippling with pear blossoms. A feeling of impending liberation welled up in my heart. Just then, the door was suddenly kicked open, and Pei Muchin entered with a sullen face. As soon as he entered, he asked me angrily, Lin Wanshi, when did you become so despicable? Behind him was Chuyue, who was being held by the servants. What happened? I was puzzled. Yuhan said your maid goes out every day, there must be something fishy, so she had her searched. Upon inspection, it was found that she was carrying a whole bag of silver. How dare a maid steal so much money? It must have been under your instruction. He pinched my chin and coldly questioned me. Is the household not providing you enough food and drink? What do you need this money for? If it weren't for Yuhan's timely discovery, who knows if the Marquis's residence would have been emptied by you. Yuhan is kind and asked me not to make things difficult for you. Explain yourself, how much have you stolen these days, and what have you done with the money? I found it laughable, the old lady manages the household, has she said anything is missing? Pei Muchin hesitated, no, she hasn't, but maybe she hasn't noticed. Pei Muchin, back then, to help you gather tuition, I sold sweet water from dawn till dusk. And even in such difficult times, I never thought of stealing. Why would you think I stole this money? Pei Muchin was momentarily dazed, his face slowly turning red. Maybe because you went from wife to concubine, you felt humiliated, and in your heart, you were unwilling, so he knew all along. He knew that going from wife to concubine was a disgraceful thing. Yet, even so, he still chose to betray me. Back then, the silver you gave me after you became a marquis, I mostly used to buy shops. The shops were quite profitable, so I went on to buy estates. This money came from selling the shops and estates. Oh, and some clothes, I pawned them. I had Chuyue take the money to the women and children at a residential care home. Pei Muchin looked at me in astonishment, his face slowly turning pale. If you don't believe me, you can ask the pawn shop. But before I could finish, Pei Muchen suddenly grabbed my sleeve tightly. Lin Wanshi, why are you suddenly doing all this? I lowered my eyes, brushed off his hand, and didn't answer him. But he was relentless, pressing down on my shoulders. Why sell the shops and pawn the clothes? You're acting like you're settling your affairs in advance. Lin Wanshi, tell me, what are you thinking? I looked directly into his eyes and calmly explained. Marquis, I just feel sorry for the women and children at the residential care home. Fearing complications, I didn't intend to tell him the truth. Pei Muchen stared at me, seemingly pondering the truth of my words. Then, he shook his head. In the past, when we depended on each other, you told me about your hometown. You said your hometown is very far away, and you can't reach it by carriage or boat. After I first confessed my feelings to you, you said that one day you would go back, and once you did, you would never see me again. The last time, you even told Chiyue that you wanted to go to a faraway place. He held my shoulders, his voice tense. Wanshi, are you planning to go home? The bright moon rose high, and the scent of lotuses filled the air. I fought the urge to vomit and reminded him. Marquis, I can't even leave the Marquis's residence now, how can I go home? Pei Muchen seemed to be lost in thought, releasing his grip after a while, and instead caressed my cheek. That's true. Wanshi, I'll have someone follow you these days, you stay obediently in the Marquis's residence. Whether as a wife or a concubine, you are still my Marquis Pei's person. As for this money, I'll keep it safe for you. Life and death are fated, wealth is in the hands of heaven. The lives of those women and children at the residential care home depend on their fortune. It's enough that you have me in your heart, no need to worry about them. Back when we were poor and destitute, he would help me give sweet water to traveling scholars, thirsty travelers, and children who were swallowing their saliva eagerly. Though he himself had experienced hard times, now that he was suddenly wealthy, he was unwilling to share even a bit of his umbrella with those caught in the rain. I closed my eyes, feeling that he was the truly despicable one. Pei Muchen, when we got married 4 years ago, I gave you a hair comb, do you remember? In this dynasty, there's a tradition that when a couple marries, they exchange hair combs they personally crafted. I'm not skilled in woodworking, and to make that boxwood comb, I added several new scars to my hands. I made 3, choosing the finest one to give to Pei Muchen. I heard Miss Lu made you a new one from the best sandalwood. I'm no longer the Marquis's wife, so I'll return the comb the Marquis gave me later. And trouble the Marquis to return the old comb to me as well. Once given, how can it be taken back? Without thinking, Pei Muchen directly refused. Whether it's a sandalwood comb or a boxwood comb, I want both. But he was destined not to have it both ways. The next day, Pei Muchen married for the second time. Over the years, he had gathered significant military power, made connections with many officials in court. And many came to the Marquis's residence to offer their congratulations. Moreover, the old lady also invited her maternal family, making this wedding far more grand than the one 4 years ago. In the midst of the clamor of gongs and drums, on the night of the bridal chamber, I was even more excited than Pei Muchen. I quietly slipped the deed into Chiyue's sleeve and asked the system. They've already completed the wedding ceremony, when can I go home? The system replied, wait a little longer. I was restless, watching as the guests in the front courtyard dispersed, and couldn't help but ask the system again. How long do I have to wait? The system told me to go to the abandoned garden in the back courtyard, saying there was a low dry well there. As long as I jumped into the dry well now, I could go home. Pei Muchen had assigned a nanny to follow me closely. At this moment, I couldn't care about much else, pushed open the door, and headed straight for the abandoned garden. Madam, where are you going so late? The nanny looked at me warily, blocking my way. I directly pushed her aside and lifted my skirt to step onto the path home. The nanny fell on her backside. Ignoring the pain, she hurriedly ran out to grab a servant, urgently saying, quickly go tell the Marquis, there's something unusual with Madam. When I ran to the abandoned garden, a group of people was already following me. Lin Wanshi. I heard Pei Muchen's voice. The crowd automatically made way. Pei Muchen, who should have been in the bridal chamber, was now running towards me with his long hair loose and barefoot. Lin Wanshi, what are you doing? I stood at the edge of the dry well and this time told him the truth, I'm going home. Pei Muchen's figure swayed, and he asked me in shock, is it that faraway place? Yes. I felt more at ease than ever before. Silently, the west wind rises, the withered branches covered with cold frost. Tonight, the starry river is splendid, with moonlight as a boat, it can sail thousands of miles. I seemed to see my parents waving at me. They would clear away the snow left by the harsh winter for me, warming my ears with their constant chatter. Pei Muchen, goodbye forever. After saying that, I closed my eyes and resolutely jumped into the dry well. Pain engulfed me, and I felt as if my leg bones had broken. When I opened my eyes, I looked down to see the pitch-black dry well. And when I looked up, there was a small patch of sky framed by the well. I didn't see my parents, I only saw Pei Muchen's hand reaching out to me. I thought I was mistaken, so I blinked and opened my eyes again. I was still wearing ancient clothes, my hair styled in an ancient bun, and I was still in ancient times. Didn't you say that jumping into the dry well would take me home? I asked the system. No one answered me. A chill ran from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. I tentatively looked up. What met my eyes was Pei Muchen's face above the dry well. System, are you there? I automatically blocked out Pei Muchen's words, trying repeatedly to contact the system. 9 years ago, the system appeared abruptly. 5 years ago, the system disappeared suddenly. This time, it left hastily again. No matter how I summoned it, it never appeared. Even though I did what the system told me, I still couldn't go home. The dry well had long been without water, but despair slowly engulfed me. In the midst of extreme joy and sorrow, I fainted. Before losing consciousness, I wondered if the next time I opened my eyes, it would be the 21st century greeting me. When I woke up, I became the laughingstock of the entire capital. The news of me jumping into a well on my husband's wedding night spread everywhere. The noble women in the capital said I was indeed fit to be a concubine. Pretending to be indifferent while using such lowly tactics behind the scenes. When Lu Yuhan saw me, she sighed deeply. Wanshi, why did you do it? Pretending to leave, making Muchen worried and anxious, and then breaking your leg. Leaving me both amused and helpless. You told Muchen that your home was far away. But I sent someone to investigate, and it turns out you're clearly from the capital. I know you wanted to make him feel insecure and thus control him. But such little tricks are easily exposed, why deceive him and yourself? As she spoke, she gave Pei Muchen a playful smile. But you really did scare Muchen. He ran out barefoot at the time. But who jumps into a dry well and can return home? Hearing this, Pei Muchen's face showed a hint of embarrassment, as if he also found his actions that night absurd. He pressed his lips together and defended himself. Lin Wanshi kept telling me she came from a very distant place. I believed her, and in a moment of panic, I made a fool of myself. After Lu Yuhan left, Pei Muchen held my hand through the blanket, a smile suddenly appearing in his eyes. I originally wanted to scold you for causing trouble, but then I thought you did it out of love for me. You deliberately ignored me for a while, putting on such a big show, wasn't it just to test your place in my heart? Now that I left my bride on our wedding night to come find you, are you satisfied? Wanshi, I won't hold this against you. Lu Yuhan is generous and doesn't intend to blame you. But you must be grateful, serve your husband and the main wife well, and don't be so willful anymore. Lu Yuhan doesn't have many days left, you should also consider her more. I sat on the bed in a daze, not answering a word. Pei Muchen thought I was too ashamed to speak, so he left without saying more. After the door closed, Qiuyue, with her eyes swollen like walnuts, whimpered. Qiuyue knows you didn't lie. You sold your estates and shops, and even gave me her deed, you was ready to leave. She squatted by my bed, her eyes clear. Although I don't know why you jumped into the dry well, you must have had a reason for doing so. Yes, why did I jump into the dry well? Because the system told me that doing so would allow me to go home. But now I'm still trapped in this narrow world. Suddenly, I felt a chill of fear. Is my whole life going to revolve around a man in the back courtyard? Clearly, my life shouldn't be like this. My college entrance exam scores were excellent. And I was admitted to an 8-year clinical medicine program at my dream school. The day before coming to ancient times, I had planned a trip to X city with friends. Looking forward to university life, a bright and splendid future. But now, my life is so barren that I can see its end at a glance. I dismissed Shoyue and sat up straight, trying again and again to contact the system. I have to go back. I can't let myself stay numb in this era. From dawn to dusk, from night to morning, I kept calling the system. The moment the morning light broke through the thick clouds, the electronic voice came again. It said, "Host, I'm here." A drowning person found their only lifeline. I asked it urgently and quickly, "I did exactly as you said, so why haven't I been able to go back?" The system was silent for a moment, yet it seemed like a long time. It answered me, "Because I detected Pei Muchen's ambition." What ambition? Pei Muchen has held significant military power for many years. And recently he has developed the idea of raising an army to rebel and establish himself as emperor. I was bewildered. What does this have to do with me going back? "Host, your mission has changed. Originally, he only wanted to reclaim the Marquis title, so your mission was to help him become a Marquis. Now, he wants to seize the throne, so your mission has changed to help him ascend smoothly. You haven't completed the mission, so naturally, you can't leave this world." The system waited for a while, seeing that I didn't answer, it continued. "Host, don't you want to go home? As long as Pei Muchen becomes emperor, you can go back. But now is a time of peace. The new emperor has reduced taxes and established charitable institutions. He is a wise ruler. Why start a war without reason? I had once stayed at the border and witnessed the cruelty of war with Pei Muchen. Commoners in plain clothes, weapons at their throats, corpses piled like mountains. Wheels crushing yellow earth, red marks everywhere, jagged white bones buried in the sand. At that time, he hoped for no more wars and for peace in the world. Why turn this peaceful world into hell for his selfish desires? I asked the system. Why ask so many questions? This is Pei Muchen's wish, it's your mission, and you should complete it. The system was a bit impatient. Besides, Pei Muchen was practically raised by you. If he can ascend the throne, wouldn't you be proud? Even though it was an emotionless electronic voice, I felt a hint of excitement in its tone. When he becomes emperor, given your relationship, he will definitely grant you a noble title. Even if you don't return to the modern world, living a life of luxury here, wouldn't that be comfortable? Seeing that I didn't answer, the system said sinisterly. In any case, if you want to go home, do as I say and help Pei Muchen ascend the throne smoothly. How should I help? The system instinctively replied, just like before, shield him from arrows, shed blood, and protect him. Rebellion is a big deal, extremely dangerous, you must risk your life to keep him safe. I looked down at my broken leg and fell silent once again. The system seemed certain that I would accept the mission to go home and didn't urge me to agree. But I was thinking, even if Pei Muchen ascends the throne, and the mission is completed, can I really go home? Since I came to ancient times, the system has always used going home as bait to make me do various things. The first time, it said as long as Pei Muchen became a Marquis, I could go back. After completing the mission, I couldn't leave. The second time, it said as long as Pei Muchen married someone else, I could go back. After completing the mission, I still couldn't leave. Now, it says to help Pei Muchen ascend the throne. This system has been serving Pei Muchen all along, driving me to fulfill all of Pei Muchen's wishes. Some time ago, Pei Muchen wanted to marry Liu Yuhan, but with me as the main wife, it was tricky. The system told me the condition to go home was for Pei Muchen to marry someone else. So, I willingly demoted myself to a concubine, saving them a lot of trouble. If I hadn't agreed, and it really caused a fuss, whether it would succeed or not, Pei Muchen would have been reported by the censor. At that time, I thought, how could it be such a coincidence? The system required Pei Muchen to marry someone else, and he just happened to want to marry Liu Yuhan. Actually, the system was just enslaving me to fulfill all of Pei Muchen's desires. But why? I never wanted to come to ancient times, it bound me inexplicably and forced me to complete tasks. Just because Pei Muchen wanted to become a Marquis, and the path was difficult. I had to protect him with my life, shed blood and tears, and support him with my body to climb up. But before this, Pei Muchen and I were complete strangers. I can help someone selflessly because of love, pity, or being moved, but never because of being forced. I felt like a woman sold into the mountains, with the buyer saying if I behaved well, I could go home, so I worked desperately. The harder I worked, the more the buyer felt the money was worth it. How could they possibly let me go voluntarily? When the first mission succeeded, the system left quietly, just to drive me to work again when needed. The broken leg hurt terribly, constantly reminding me of the system's deception. Jumping into the dry well never allowed me to go home. It was just a casual lie when it got impatient with my questions. Even if Pei Muchen ascends the throne, there will be other wishes. The system will tell me, host, I detected Pei Muchen desperately wants offspring. If you want to go home, you must bear him a child. Host, I detected Pei Muchen wants a male heir. If you want to go home, you must give birth to a prince. Host, I detected Pei Muchen hopes you personally care for the prince. If you want to go home, you must first raise the child. And so on, over and over, under the guise of going home, making me live my life at Pei Muchen's disposal. A system that binds me without my consent is a rogue. I shouldn't have any expectations of a rogue, thinking it could help me go home. The only one who can save me from this predicament is myself. At dawn, the sky gradually brightened. The air was clear, and the red plum blossoms suddenly bloomed. I realized the true way to go home. Pei Muchen has been quite cheerful lately. Because of my broken bone, he spends his days resting in Lu Yuhan's room, but he still finds time to come and see me. After more than a month, I can already walk. With the new year approaching, I cut paper window decorations while chatting with him casually. I heard from the gatekeeper that this year, many people are coming to our marquee residence to deliver New Year gifts. And they are all quite valuable, I said. Pei Muchen leaned against the door, watching me cut the decorations, and smiled. In recent years, I've gained some prestige in the court. And even the army from Western State has sent people with heavy gifts. I heard several fast horses died from exhaustion. Marquis, you are truly impressive. I put down the scissors and smoothed my hair. Marquis, come and see if these silver hairpins look pretty? Chuiwei insisted on putting them on me, but I feel my head is unbearably heavy. Pei Muchen instinctively asked with a smile. Just a few pieces of jewelry and you find it heavy? What if you are made a noble consort in the future? A noble consort? I looked at myself in the bronze mirror, frowned, and teased. Is the Marquis tired of me and wants to send me to the palace? But I've never heard that the emperor favors a woman who has been married twice. Pei Muchen curled his index finger and tapped my head. What are you saying? Wanshi, you and I have been through hardships together. How could I possibly abandon you to someone else? His tone was calm and certain. Do you think your husband will only ever hold the title of a marquis in this lifetime? Pei Muchen indeed has ambitions of rebellion. I placed the cut paper decoration in Pei Muchen's palm. Marquis, you are skilled in both literature and martial arts. Naturally, you will not be content under others. But if war breaks out again, who knows how many soldiers will die and how many civilians will suffer? Pei Muchen was indifferent, chuckling lightly. What does it matter? For a general to succeed, many bones must wither. It's their fortune to shed blood for me. Throughout history, success always requires sacrifices. You don't need to worry about these things, Wanshi. You just need to heal your leg soon and bear children for me. He was convinced that I was a woman of the inner chambers, dependent on him, prioritizing his ambitions, and didn't deliberately hide any of this from me. Pei Muchen spent more and more time in the study, meeting with different people. Money from the residence was sent out in batches, likely used to buy military equipment. The system occasionally appeared, gently reminding me, Host, the day of Pei Muchen's uprising is near. Remember your mission. If you fail, you can never return. To this, I was non-committal. The system wasn't annoyed, confident that I would follow its instructions. As the day of the spring hunt approached, my leg was fully healed. Officials could accompany the emperor on the spring hunt and bring their families. Now that Lu Yuhan had become the legitimate wife, Pei Muchen naturally called her along. And I heard she had already prepared her attire. Marquis, I want to go too. I served Pei Mooch in a bowl of sweet peach soup and mentioned it while he drank. Recently, although I had been polite to him, I was always somewhat distant. This rare display of attentiveness was clearly appreciated by Pei Moochen. Since bringing an additional concubine was of little consequence, he readily agreed. After Pei Moochen left, Chuiwei excitedly whispered to me, "Madam, are you finally planning to vie for favor?" Vying for favor? The system couldn't be relied upon, so I would carve out my own path home. I went on a spring hunt to find the emperor, Song Mobai. But for several days, I didn't even catch a glimpse of him. I heard there were hot springs on the mountain, and the emperor often went there for medicinal baths. I thought it might be a good idea to try my luck there. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on my side. I climbed the mountain 3 times but still didn't encounter Song Mobai. Luckily, Pei Moochen was busy hunting and showing off, so he didn't have time to bother me, leaving me with plenty of free time. That day, just as dawn was breaking, I climbed the mountain again, preparing to wait by the hot springs, hoping for a chance encounter. After walking past several hot springs, I suddenly heard voices coming from one of the pools. Following the sound, I saw a person dressed in a light moonwhite robe, with long black hair, partially submerged in the warm spring water. A person dressed as a eunuch was bending over, listening to him speak. Although I had never seen Song Mobai before, I had a feeling that the person in front of me was probably him. As I was pondering how to introduce myself, Song Mobai suddenly looked my way. The eunuch also noticed me, eyes widening in alarm, and immediately pointed at me, shouting, "Assassin! Guards, protect the emperor!" His words sent chills down my spine, and I knelt on the ground with a thud, quickly explaining, "I am not an assassin. I recognize her. She is Lin Wanshi, from Marquis Pei's side." Before I could introduce myself, Song Mobai informed the eunuch and waved him away. "Get up quickly. There are many sharp stones in the mud here. Don't hurt your knees." Song Mobai looked at me, his expression gentle. I was a bit dazed. "Your Majesty recognizes me? When you were still the Marchioness, I saw you once at Princess Qing's birthday banquet. I've also heard many rumors about you." They probably weren't good rumors, so I casually asked, "Are they about things like demoting myself to a concubine or causing trouble by jumping into a well?" Song Mobai was slightly taken aback, then shook his head. "Not just that. I also heard that when Pei Moochen was down and out, you took him in and cared for him as he grew up. You even went to the northwest, carrying him on your back over sand dunes to save his life when he was near death. I think Pei Moochen is very fortunate to have someone like you. Did you come to the mountain for the hot springs, or were you specifically looking for me?" Song Mobai asked with a warm smile, looking up at me. I walked step by step towards him, squatting down by the pool. "I came to find your Majesty." Song Mobai watched me, waiting for my next words. In the silent mountain, each word I spoke was clearly heard by Song Mobai. "Pei Moochen, Marquis Pei, intends to rebel." Suddenly, a sharp electronic voice echoed in my mind. The system shouted, "Host, what are you doing? Don't you want to complete the task? Don't you want to go home? Hurry up and say you were talking nonsense. While there's still a chance to fix this, quickly." I ignored it, taking out a letter I had copied long ago from my bosom and handed it to Song Mobai. "This is one of the pieces of evidence." Song Mobai opened the letter, and after reading it, his face did not show surprise. Instead, he asked me curiously, as the person beside Marquis Pei, "Why are you telling me this? If Marquis Pei succeeds, your status would change drastically. Don't you hope for his success?" The spring mountains and waters stretched endlessly. The morning sun rose from the clouds, and the rosy glow silently spread, falling on my hair. I shook my head solemnly, answering him, "I don't wish for unnecessary conflict to arise out of nowhere." Song Mobai was silent for a moment, then asked me, "What do you seek by telling me this? Do you want me to spare Pei Moochen's life after he fails? Those who rebel should be executed. What life is there to spare?" The system screamed sharply, "Host, you're crazy. You're crazy. Do you know what you're doing?" I knew. Pei Moochen disregarded human life, confiscated the money I donated to charity, and believed that others' lives were left to fate, thinking that others' blood and sweat were ordinary. Such a person, if he became emperor, would be a disaster for the world. I have morals and righteousness in my heart and do not wish for clowns to be adorned or beasts to enter the hall. Steam rose gently, and Song Amobi's smile faded as he seriously scrutinized me. After a while, he sighed softly and bowed to me. Miss Lin, your righteousness is admirable. By the hot spring, Song Mobi and I began to chat. He said he had vaguely sensed Pei Muchen's disloyalty. And I told him everything I had discovered at the Marquis's residence during this time. Pei Muchen is not ready yet, but he has already hoarded a lot of military equipment and armor. The commander of the Imperial Guards is quite close to him. And he plans to arrange a team to infiltrate the outskirts of the capital, planning to act on your Majesty's birthday. If he can assassinate your Majesty, he'll directly change the dynasty. If not, he'll escape to the northwest and raise an army again. After saying this, Song Mobi asked me to go down the mountain first. The mountain climate was changeable. Although the sun had just come out, snow began to fall again. Song Mobi handed me a fox fur cloak. Miss Lin, wear this, don't catch a cold. On the way down the mountain, the system kept screaming and yelling. Not only are you not completing the task, but you're also going to get Pei Muchen killed. How can you be so cruel? Do you believe I'll erase you immediately? I continued walking on the snow-covered stone steps, not stopping. If you could erase me, you would have done so when I reported Pei Muchen's rebellion. Allowing me to live until now is just because of your limitations, isn't it? The system was furious, and its words became more and more vicious, escalating to personal attacks. Seeing that I was unmoved, it resorted to its usual tactics, threatening me with the things I cared about most. Your parents in the modern world are almost going crazy with worry. Don't you want to go back? Lin Wanshi, you're truly an unfilial daughter, destined to stay in ancient times forever. Have some dignity, will you? I laughed in anger. Knowing my parents would be worried, why did you send me here? Completing the task and letting me go back was just a trap you set for me. Shut up, liar. Perhaps realizing I had discovered the truth, the system didn't argue with me anymore and went offline dejectedly. After returning, Lu Yuhan was busy grinding me down with the old lady. This person, who claimed she didn't have much time left, now looked more and more rosy and healthy, with one sharp-tongued trick after another. She thought I was competing for favor with her. But who would compete for the favor of someone who was about to die? Pei Muchen was also busy plotting rebellion. On March 3rd, the commander of the Imperial Guards died at home from excessive drinking. On the same day, Song Mobi summoned Marquis Pei to the palace to discuss state affairs. And Pei Muchen didn't return all night. Lu Yuhan thought he was resting with me and came looking for him, throwing a big tantrum at me. The next day, the Marquis's residence was surrounded. And many letters were found in the secret compartment of the study, all pointing to Pei Muchen's rebellion. At the same time, the commander of the Northwest Army was replaced, with Song Amobi's cousin taking over the Northwest forces. Pei Muchen refused to admit to the rebellion, claiming he was being framed. The system tried to persuade me, if you save Pei Muchen's life this time, I'll send you back. All right. I agreed readily. Then I stepped forward and turned around to become a witness in the case of Pei Muchen's rebellion. The system cursed even more harshly. Because of the rebellion, Pei Muchen was imprisoned, along with Lu Yuhan and the old lady. And their relatives were also thrown into the imperial prison. Of course, this did not include me. Song Mobi issued an imperial decree, declaring that I was no longer Pei Muchen's concubine and had no further ties with him. I accepted the decree and then went to the palace to see Song Mobi. Because I suddenly remembered there was indeed something I needed his help with. The Marquis's estate was confiscated, and all the money was taken by the authorities. I told Song Mobi, among this money, there are 364 taels of silver, which I got from selling my land and shops. I originally intended to donate it to the women and children at a residential care home, but Pei Muchen confiscated it. Song Mobi understood my meaning, and a faint smile appeared on his face. I will have someone donate this money to the residential care home, Miss Lin, rest assured. He suddenly changed the topic and softly asked me, "You have made a great contribution, and you deserve a reward." Do you have any wishes? To go home, I blurted out. Song Mobai looked at me in astonishment, seemingly not understanding why I would say such a thing. He couldn't help me go home anyway, so I didn't say more, just shook my head, no. Song Mobai seemed thoughtful and added. Pei Muchin woke up today and suddenly became agitated, demanding to see you, muttering something about a system. Do you want to go see him? Hearing the last sentence, my heart stirred, and I immediately nodded in agreement, okay. In the prison, Pei Muchin was disheveled and haggard, looking just like the young man I picked up from the street 10 years ago. Lin Wanshi, you never truly cared for me. Upon seeing me, Pei Muchin stood up straight, gripping the bars and speaking through gritted teeth. I had a dream and learned the whole truth. You took me in to go home, and your kindness to me was all a scheme from the start. You never truly treated me with sincerity. You deceiver, you tricked my feelings, he shouted at me. How could that be? When I took him in, I was only 18, full of sincerity. That's why I treated him wholeheartedly, initially as a brother, and later as a lover, using all my strength to love him. But he wore down my feelings and trampled on my sincerity. But these things, I no longer wanted to tell him. Lin Wanshi, I dreamed that after I died, you went home. His indifferent words made my heart race. So, if he dies, I can go back? But the next second, he suddenly changed his tone, sneering. But do you think you can really go home? No, you can't, because I won't die. What do you mean? Pei Muchin laughed somewhat maniacally. Today, Song Mobai came to see me and suddenly asked about your preferences. A man understands another man best, and seeing him like that, I knew he was interested in you. Lin Wanshi, when did you start colluding with him? To conspire with another man to frame your own husband, truly a woman's heart is the most venomous. I'm asking you, why do you say you won't die? I grabbed his sleeve, urgently inquiring. I told Song Mobai about the system. I said that if I die, Lin Wanshi would immediately disappear and return to her original time and space. Anyway, he has already found my accomplices, and I have no power to resist. He can completely not kill me, just imprison me, and still be known as a benevolent ruler. But in that case, you will never be able to go back. Pei Muchin stared at me intently, curling one corner of his lips, his tone cold. Lin Wanshi, stay with me in this time and space. Neither of us wins, a life of endless struggle. Hearing this, I summoned the long-lost system. Was it you who let Pei Muchin know these things? Yes, I must preserve his life. Shameless. You are shameless too. I looked at Pei Muchin and slapped him hard. You and that system, both equally shameless and disgusting. When I left the prison, my steps were somewhat heavy. My heart was confused, not knowing what Song Mobai would do, whether he would kill Pei Muchin. If he were to kill him, when would he take action? As I stepped out of the prison with a heavy heart, suddenly an eunuch came running to deliver an imperial edict. He said that Pei Muchin was guilty of treason, and the emperor ordered his execution at the noon gate in 3 days. I suddenly turned back, only to see Song Mobai smiling at me from the stone steps not far away. His smile was warm, silently mouthing 2 words. Go home. The day before Pei Muchin was to be executed, I entered the palace once again. Song Mobai had prepared 2 large bundles of items for me. When I opened them, one bag contained snacks and pastries, and the other was filled with jewelry and accessories. What is His Majesty doing? Miss Lin, don't you want to go home? Although I don't know how you plan to return, it's always good to have some food and travel expenses prepared. Song Mobai replied warmly. I looked at the various ivory hairpins in the bundle, momentarily at a loss for words. The system had told me that nothing from this place could be taken back. But I didn't want to refuse Song and Mobai's kind gesture. I also wanted to try, if I could really take them back, wouldn't I be rich? Song Mobai coughed lightly and tightened his sleeves. Miss Lin, you are a very good girl. When I first heard your story with Pei Muchin, I thought how wonderful it would be if I could meet someone who treats me with such sincerity. After getting to know you, I realized you are much more vibrant than the protagonist in the story. You are not only clear about your likes and dislikes but also have a noble heart. I really admire you for that. His smile was as warm as when we first met. After you return, we probably won't see each other again. No matter what, I hope you take care and stay well on the other side of the world. Lin Wanshi, may everything go smoothly, and may you return home safely. I also smiled at him. I wish His Majesty a long and peaceful life, year after year. On the day Pei Muchen's family was executed, I sat in a private room of an inn not far away. I heard the sound of the executioner spraying wine, the curses of the common people, and the sound of the blade falling. This person, whom I once protected with my life, was sent to the execution platform by my own hands. You, the system's weak voice sounded, followed by the dial tone similar to a phone being hung up. Then, I suddenly felt a sense of lightness, as if something had completely detached from my body. Pei Muchen's lifelong wish was endless. Only with his death, with no more wishes, could I truly begin my journey home. Looking back on 10 years in ancient times, it was like a fleeting glimpse. The path to survival can only be fought for by oneself. One cannot easily trust others, much less the system. After all, it was the system that trafficked me to ancient times. The words of a trafficker can never be trusted. I returned to the modern era with the 2 large bundles of items that Song Mobai gave me. My parents, just as I imagined, hugged me and cried uncontrollably. After calming down, I showed my parents the things I brought back from ancient times. My mom's eyes widened. So many, and so exquisitely made, how much must they be worth? My dad, with sharp eyes, noticed a not-so-delicate wooden comb and asked in confusion, "Why is there one that's just filling the numbers?" Following his gaze, I saw a fine-toothed peachwood comb. Amidst these accessories, it indeed seemed a bit rough. It didn't look like it was made by a craftsman, but rather like something made by a beginner. At the bottom of the comb, a small Wanshi character was carved. I thought of that person whose eyes always held a smile. This comb, I suppose, is the memory he left for me.